Welcome to this predicted paper from On Maths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our On Maths site. On Maths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! So we've just got to know some vocab. Faces are where you could lay your hand flat on a shape. Then you've got edges where you can run your finger along. And then vertices are the corners, the bits that you would stab into your finger. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the front, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 including the back ones. So a prime number is a number that is only in the 1 times table and its own times table. So 4, for example, is not a prime number because it is also in the 2 times table. 6 is in the 2 times table. 15 is in the 3 times table. 21 is also in the 3 times table. 9 is also in the 3 times table. Now 1 is a bit of a special case. The definition is that it has to be in 1 and its own times table, and technically 1 is only in one of those. So 1 is not a prime number. The smallest prime number is actually 2, but 2 is not in this list. 23 though is not in any other times table, so 23 is a prime number. A comparative bar chart is where you have 2 bars next to each other meaning different things. So it's probably easier just to start drawing it and then we can talk about it as we go along. So we've got males here at 12, and so what we want to do is a bar that is 12 high, and these are going up in 2s, so it will be up here. There we go. And then right next to it we're going to do females, which is 14. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make this go up to 14. And there we go. Now, we need to be able to tell these apart, so what I'm going to do is just shade in the females. And we should do a little key. And we say that if they're not shaded, it's males. And if they're shaded, that is females. Okay, let's carry on with the bar chart. So it's 14 and 6. So notice I've got gaps between the pairs. So we've got 14 and 6, which will be down here. And again, we're just going to shade in the females. And then finally, we've got 8 and 16. So 8 would be here. Then 16 be up here, and finally obviously we're going to shade in the females. So we can write the factors of 6 by working out 2 numbers that multiply together to make 6. So 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. So 1, 2, 3 and 6 are all the factors of 6. The only number that is in our list is the 2. If I split this shape into 2 sets of 6 blocks, when we're asked to shade in 3/6, for each one of those, or each set of blocks, I'm going to shade in 3 of the 6. So that's 3 for the first set, and this is 3 for the second set. And that's our answer. Now you might notice that 3 over 6 is the same as a half, because we can divide on 1 by 3, and so all I need to do is shade in a half. Or you might convert 3 over 6 into 6 over 12, and there's 12 squares altogether, so it's 6 of the 12 squares. There's lots of ways of doing this question. So the key says that a circle represents 8 DVDs, and we're told that on Thursday there are 18 DVDs. So we need to rewrite 18 in kind of lots of 8. So that will be an 8 plus 8, which is 16, plus a 2. So we know it will be 2 full circles. So let's get those 2 full circles in. And that will represent 16. But how do we represent 2? Well, if you think about it, if we cut this up into quarters, each quarter will represent 2. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. So we just need another quarter. And so that would be 8 for the first one, 8 for the second one, and then this little quarter will represent 2, which altogether is 18. I'm going to start just by writing down the number. And we're asked to round this to 3 significant figures. And basically what that means is starting from the left-hand side, it's 3 numbers that we want. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do our line after that third number. And you start counting the first non-zero digit. So the first digit there was 2, so we started counting. Now all the numbers to the left, or sorry, to the right, so these numbers here, will all turn to 0. But before that happens, we look at this number. Now this number, if it's 5 or more, it moves this number up by 1. If it's less than 5, that number stays the same. Now it is 5 or more, because it is 5. So it's not going to be 207, it's going to be 208. Now, a common mistake is that students write down 208. No, all the numbers to the right of that line turn to 0. So it would be 0, 0, 0. So it would be 20,000 or 208,000 exactly. If we tried to draw a quadrilateral with a pair of parallel sides, and then it's a quadrilateral, so join them up, it's got 4 sides, then the shape we draw will always be a trapezium. So our answer is that it is a trapezium. Now you might think that a rectangle and square does have one pair of parallel sides, but it actually has 2 pairs of parallel sides. The definition of a trapezium is it has just 1 pair of parallel sides, and any quadrilateral that has 1 pair of parallel sides is a trapezium. The first thing to do when working out what angle things need to be on a pie chart is to add up the frequencies. So we're going to do 14 plus 7 plus 3, and we find out that that's 24. Then we're going to find the angle that one item would be. So one item is going to be, well, there are 360 degrees in a triangle, and there are 24 items. So we're going to do 360 divided by 24, and that gives us 15 degrees. So each item is worth 15 degrees, or will take up 15 degrees. So to find out the angle for red, well, we've got 14 items, times it by 15, and that will give us 210 degrees. And we're just going to times each of these by 15, which would be 105, and the final one times 15 is 45 degrees. Add them up and they add up to 360, which is good. They need to add up to 360. So we got our protractor, rest it on a pie chart. Now we know 180 is down here, so the first thing we're going to do is just mark that on, because the first angle is going to be 210, so we know that's 180 so far. So I'm going to turn my protractor around, and from 180, 210 will be another 30, so I'm just going to plot that on. And then I'm going to join it up. So start at the center and join that up. And we're going to stop when the circle stops. Then to do 105, we're going to put our protractor in the middle. And we're going to look at 105, which will be up here. And then we're just going to join it up with a straight line. And then we're just going to check the last angle. And so if I put my protractor on it, and it is 45 degrees. Perfect. Now, an important step to not miss is you need to label them. And so the first one is red, the second one is blue, and then the final one is other. So we're going to use a function machine to find out the output when we've got an input of 11. So we put 11 into this machine. And the first thing that happens is we multiply it by 3. So out of that first machine, we're going to have 33, which is 11 times 3. Then the next part of the machine is going to take away 5 from that. So 33 take away 5 is going to be 28. So our output is going to be 28. In this question, we're given the output as 53. So we know that the output was 53. So now we've kind of got to work backwards. And when we work backwards through a function machine or a number machine, we do the opposite of what it says. So this first one says plus 9, but when we go backwards, we do the opposite, which is take away 9. So we do 53 take away 9, which is 44. Now we can check that by going the other way. So 44 plus 9 is 53, so that works. The next one says times 4, so the opposite would be divided by 4. So we're going to do 44 divided by 4, and that gives us an input of 11. Now let's check the whole thing. We put in 11. 11 times 4 is 44. 44 plus 9 is 53, so we know we've got it correct. To find a coordinate, what we can do is we can start in the middle, and we work out how far across we have to go. And here we have to go 2 across, so the x coordinate is 2. Then we find out how far upwards or downwards we have to go. And here we can go, well, we have to go 3 downwards. So that's going to be minus 3. So we first of all look at the x coordinate, the 2, then the y coordinate, minus 3, along the corridor, up, or in this case, down the stairs. Let's rewrite this expression, but with a times sign in, so v times w squared. Now w squared just means times by itself, so we can rewrite that as v times w times w. Okay, so we know v is minus 10, so minus 10. And we know w is minus 4, so it's times minus 4 times minus 4. Okay, so when you multiply, it doesn't matter which order we do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do these ones first, and I'm going to ignore that times minus 4 at the end. So minus 10 times minus 4, that's a minus times a minus, which is a positive, 10 times 4, which is 40, times minus 4. Now we're going to do 40 times minus 4, so it's a positive times a negative, so that's going to be a negative. And 40 times 4, well, 4 times 4 is 16, so 40 times 4 is 160. So it's going to be minus 160. A side elevation is the view you'd get if you were standing at the side of a shape. So I'm standing here, and it's the view I'll get. Well, it would be this trapezium here. And to know which side is the side and which one's the front, well, the front is always going to be labelled. They do normally label the sides as well for you. So we're going to draw this trapezium. So the top bit is 3, then it's 6, then it's 8. So I'm just going to start off with the bottom, actually. That might be easier. And draw the 8 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to do the 6 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like I left just enough room. Then I'm going to do the 3 across. 1, 2, 3. And then all I need to do is just join up the start and the finish to complete the trapezium. To answer this question, we basically need to find the lowest common multiple of the 10 minutes here and the 15 minutes here. So we're going to start off just by doing the 10 and 15 times table. So it'd be 10, 20, 30. And 15 times table with 15 and 30. So the lowest common multiple is 30. So after half an hour, these buses will sync up. They'll both leave at the same time. And all buses start service at 9 o'clock. So it will be half an hour after 9 o'clock, which will be 9:30. So what we can do here is we can do 3 divided by 7 to find out what 3 is a percentage of 7. Find out what that is as a decimal, which would be 0.428, blah, blah, blah. And then to convert a decimal into a percentage, we times by 100. So we can get that 0.428, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to times it by 100. And that will be 42.857. and it wants it to the nearest percent, so that's going to round to 43%. With these questions, we've just got to go around and fill in what we can, and there's going to be some numbers like this one here we can't fill in yet, so we're going to have to be strategic in the order we do it. I'm going to first of all look here, and notice that the total of girls and boys is 29, the total of the boys is 18, so take away the 18 from 29 and we get 11. Next one I'm going to fill out is this one. Notice that the total for the green is 15, total for the boys who's picked green is 12, and therefore for the girls it's going to be 3. Then looking around, what's the next thing that we can fill out? We can fill out this one, because the total for the boys is 18, green is 12, blue is 1, therefore we've got 5 left over. Then we can fill out this one, 2 plus 5 is 7. Then we can fill out this one, so 2 plus 3 is 5, then plus another 6 would be 11, and then 6 plus 1 is 7. So we're going to start by doing a circle at minus 13 and a circle at minus 6, and x is between those values, so we're just going to join them up with a line. Probably move my circle down a little bit. Okay, next thing to do is figure out which of these dots are going to be filled in. So if it can equal that number, it gets filled in. So it can equal minus 13, so I'm going to fill that in. But for minus 6, it can't equal that, so it becomes a hollow dot. It's really important when answering this question that we're really methodical. So we're going to start off just looking at stake. And so I'm going to start off with the S. And we're going to pair it with the first dessert, which is the I. Then we're going to pair the steak with the second dessert, which is the mousse. Then we're going to pair it with the third dessert, which is the fruit. So we're being really methodical. We've done all of the combinations with steak. And so we're going to look at burger next. And we're going to pair it with the first ice cream. Then burger. And we're going to pair it with the mousse. And then finally the burger we're going to pair with the fruit. As long as we do things methodically, we don't ever miss any. There are a number of different ways of working out this question. You can find out the amount of tissues per penny. You can work out the amount of, or the price of one tissue, or you can get all the amount of tissues into the same amount. I'm going to find out the price per one tissue. And we're going to start off with the 24. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the money into pence, just to mean that we don't have as much decimal. And we're going to do 807. I'm going to divide by the 24 to find out the price of one tissue. So that is 33.625. And so I'm just going to round that to 33.63. I'm just going to round everything to 2 decimal places, which says in the question. Next one, we're going to do the 20 soft tissues. So this time I'm going to do 683 divided by 20. When I put that into the calculator, you get 34.15, so that's already 2 decimal places. And then finally we're going to do the 15 soft tissues. So we're going to do the 623 divided by 15 to find the price per tissue. It should be 41.533 blah blah blah. And rounded would be 41.53. So if you buy 15 tissues, it will cost 41 pence. 20 tissues, it will be 34 pence per tissue. But 24 tissues will be 33.63. So that's by far the cheapest. The best value is the 24 tissues box. Now, there's such thing as buying in bulk. Generally, the more you buy of something, the cheaper it is. Don't rely on that, both in the GCSE, both in the exam, and in real life. Sometimes in real life, if you buy more of an item, actually per tissue, sometimes it becomes more expensive, especially if there's a special offer on the smaller box. So firstly, we're going to work out what the percentage increases are as a multiplier. So we start off with 100%. Jane has a 1.2% interest pay rise, sorry, and so that would be 101.2%, and we divide that by 100 to make it a multiplier. So the multiplier is 1.012, so we get the 20,000 times it by 1.012, and that gives us 240. Next we do the same for Lenny, so that is Jane. And so let's do Lenny. And so that's 100% plus the 1.5% will be 101.5%. Make that a multiplier, 101.5%. We divide that by 100. Which give us 1.015, and then finally what we do is we get the 17,000 times it by the multiplier, and when we do that we get 255. So Lenny has 255, Jane has 240. So it says which of the employers has a larger pay increase and by how much. So the answer will be Lenny, and it's by £15 because that's the difference between these. So we have an original amount, and this represents 100% of the original amount. The new price, new amount, represents 113%. because it has said that it has gone up by 13%. So it has increased by 13%. And as a value, that increase is £1,287. So it's 13% of the original. It's gone up 13% of the original price. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out what 1% of the price increase is. Instead of 13%, we're going to work out what 1% is. And we're going to do that by dividing the amount by 13, and we get 99. So 1% represents £99. So 1% of the original represents £99. But the new amount is 113%. So we need to times the £99 by 113, which gives us £11,187. So the picture is now worth £11,187. Okay, first of all we need to work out what the interior angles would add up to. So the sum of the interior angles is equal to n minus 2 times 180. Now n is the amount of sides, but it says it has 5 sides, so it would be 5 take away 2, which is 3, and then times 180, which would be 540. So we know it will add up to 540. So all we need to do is get that 540 and take away all the angles that we know. So the 118, the 84, the 108, and the 151. And when you do that, you get the answer of 79. A sample space diagram is basically a diagram that shows all the outcomes. And we've got the outcomes from spinner 2 at the top, so either 1, 2, or 3. And we've got the outcomes from spinner 1 down the side, so A, B, C, D, or E. And we're just writing down all the combinations. So this will be A2, A3, and then this will be B1, C1, D1, E1, and this will be B2, C2, D2, E2, and this will be B3, C3, D3, and E3. And this represents all the possible outcomes you can get from both spinners. So we're going to track the amount of eggs to make the amount of, or to make each amount of omelette. So 5 eggs makes 17 omelettes. And we're just going to find out how much is required, how many eggs is required to make one omelette. So we divide that by 17, divide both sides by 17. And so one omelette would be 0.294 blah 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 eggs. Next we want to see how many for 67 omelettes. And to get to 67 from 1 times 67, so do that to the amount of eggs, and we get 19.705 blah blah blah. Now you can't get 0.705 of an egg, we always round with eggs, and we always round upwards, because if you need 19.7, 19 won't be enough, so we need to pick 20 eggs. So the first thing we're going to do is write this as a ratio between the fractions. So we're going to have green to black. Now it says that a quarter of the counters are black, and therefore the remaining counters will be green. So if a quarter are black, that leaves 3/4 to be green. And what we can do here is, on both sides of the ratio, what I'm going to do is just times it by 4. So I'm just going to times 4 both sides. So 3 divided by 4 times 4, because over 4 just means divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4 times by 4 just gets rid of the fraction. And 1 divided by 4 times 4 is just going to be 1. Now this might surprise some people, because they will probably think it's a ratio of 4 to 1. But we can show here that it's a ratio of 3 to 1. So we've got to first of all find out what the gradient is for our graph. So we're just going to pick 2 points and draw a triangle between them. So I'm just going to pick this point here and this point here. And there's no reason I picked those, just pick those at random. And we look at how far it's going to cross. So it's gone across 10. How far it's gone up. So it's gone from 24 to 36. So it's gone 12 up. And to work out the gradient, which you can call n, or you can just write out the word gradient, it's change in y over change in x. So how much has y changed over how much has x changed? So y is this one here, so it's changed by 12, and x has changed by 10. So it's 12 divided by 10, which is 1.2. Now a gradient represents the amount of change in the y per one change in the x. So for every 1 mile we travel, we're going to go up, it's going to cost 1.2 more. So the interpretation that we give for this context, because this is about taxis, is that the taxi will cost £1.20 or 120 pence per 1 unit on the x per mile. And that's true for the gradient for any context. It's for every one of this, how much of this increases, how much the y increases by. So whenever we have a scatter graph, chances are we'll be drawing a line of best fit. And so that's what we'll start off with, draw a line of best fit in. And it says we're looking for a height of the box, or an estimate of the height of the box with the width of 17. So 17 is here. So the width of 17 will be a line across. Let's try and get this just right. Line across there. And what we do is we draw a line down when it hits the line of best fit. Now looking at the scale here, this seems to be going up in 2s. And so this line here would be at 3. So to make estimates from a scatter graph, we've got to first of all draw a line of best fit, which would be something like this. And what we'll do is to find estimate of test score B, given the fact they got 25 on test A, means that we would draw a line up from test A at 25, should be here, and then across, and that's how we'd make the estimate. But look at where that is hitting our line of best fit. It's hitting it here. What do you notice about this position here? Well, all of our data is down here. We don't know whether this trend continues up at this point here. We have no idea. For instance, if you were to plot a scatter graph of height against age, we would see it would increase like that, but that line doesn't continue on forever. Like, you're not a 10-foot giant at the age of 30. You do slowly stop growing, and so we don't know whether the trend continues. So we call this extrapolation. So we say that the data has been extrapolated, and what that means is it is probably not accurate. So when you have the data outside the range of the data, when you have a prediction, outside the range of the data, we say it's probably not accurate. If it was inside the data, we would say it's interpolated, and that's actually quite accurate. When something is squared, you times it by itself. So another way of writing this is 6x to the power of 7 times 6x to the power of 7. The 6's can go together, and the x to the power of 7's can go together. And 6 times 6 is 36. And x to the power of 7 times x to the power of 7. When you times powers, you add them. So 7 plus 7 is 14. Something else you could have done is just squared the 6 to make 36. And one of the rules is that if you have a power on the inside of a bracket and a power on the outside of the bracket, you multiply them. So 7 times 2 is 14. To find out what the value of x is, we first of all have to find out what the value of y is. And we can notice that we've got two sets of parallel lines here, and a line going through them. And we kind of got these f angles, which we have to call corresponding angles. So we know that 2y minus 50 is equal to 78. And we must write down the reason. So corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are equal. Now here we've got an equation, and we want to solve it. So we get our lines in. We'll go first of all, add 50 to both sides. So we've got 2y equals 78 plus 50, which would be 128. And then we're going to halve both sides, or divide by 2. So we've got 64. So we know that y is 64. And so we look back at the diagram to find out how we'd work out x. Well, what we can do, there's a few different things we can do. We could work out the fact that these two here are vertically opposite. That would be absolutely fine. But actually, if we look at this part here and this part here, these are also two parallel lines, and we've got this angle here and this angle are going to be alternate. So I can write that down here. So angle ECB is equal to 78 degrees. So this will be 78 degrees. And the reason for that is alternate angles. And then finally, if we know this is 78 and we know that this is 64, because we know what y is, then we can work out what x is. So x equals 180, angles in a triangle, take away the 78 we know and the 64 we know. And the reason for that is angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. And just make sure you write down all the reasons as you go. And when we take away the 78 and the 64 from 180, you get 38. So x is therefore 38 degrees. So when you read this question, the question's basically asking you to find the bearing of O from B. So the lifeboat is at B, so I'm going to draw a north line here. And to find a bearing, you start from the north line and you keep going clockwise. So we're going to look for this angle here. Now, this angle, which is given to us in the question, and this angle here, which I'm just going to call x, are going to be equal. So x is going to equal 135 degrees. And the reason for that is we've basically got, and I'm just going to draw or extend the north line down. because we've basically got we have a set of parallel lines here, and we have a set of z angles which we know is alternate angles. So the reason for that is it's alternate angles. And always show the reasons to the examiner. Okay, and so to find out what the bearing is, so the bearing of O from B, it's just going to be 360 take away 135, and the reason for that is angles on a point. We've run out of space. Okay, so we're going to do 360 take away 135, which is 225, and so our answer is 225. In this question we've got euros and we've got pounds, and we're told that £1 is 2.23 euros. And we're trying to get to understand what 2,676 euros is in pounds. And we're going to do that by finding out what €1 is, and then finding out how much 2,676 are. So, to get from 2.23 to 1, we divide by 2.23, and we're going to do that on both sides. And when we do that, we get 0.448 blah blah blah. And then to get from 1 to 2,676, we go times by 2,676 on both sides. And when we do that, we get £1,200. So 2,676 euros is £1,200. So the first thing we're going to do is work out the area of the trapezium. And the formula for that is half brackets a plus b times h. Now a and b have to be the parallel sides. So here we've got the two parallel sides here. Just pick a different colour. Here and here. So that is a and b. And then the h is the perpendicular distance between them. So perpendicular means it hits it at right angles, so that's what we've got here. So the area would be half times A, which is 28, plus B, which is 14, times the height, which is 14. And so that would be 294. Next we'll do the circle. Now it doesn't look like we've got anything for the circle, but actually the height here is actually the height of the circle as well. So the height of the circle is the same as the diameter. So the diameter of the circle is 14, therefore the radius would be half of that, which is 7, and the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So it would be pi times 7 squared, which will be 153.938 blah blah blah. Now keep that in my calculator, because next thing we'll do is the shaded area part, and it says we want to work out the area of the shaded region. So the area will be the total area, which will be the trapezium, take away the area that we don't want, which is this bit here, which will be the circle. So the trapezium's 294, the circle's 153.93 blah blah blah, and when you do that you get 140.061 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it would be 140.06. To work out the mass, we will need to find the density and the volume. Density is given to us in the question, but volume isn't, so we need to work out what the volume of this cuboid is. So the volume is just the 33 times the 7 times the 22. So that would be 5,082, and that would be centimeters cubed. And we need to write down the formula for density. So density is the mass divided by the volume. So rearrange this to get mass on its own, because that's the thing we're looking for. So mass equals density times volume. Density is given to us in the question as 2.1 grams per centimeters cubed. Times that by the 5082 for the volume, and we get the answer of 10,672. And then that will give us grams, because our density is in grams, so that is grams, but the answer is asking for kilograms. So to convert that to kilograms, we just divide by 1,000 and we get 10.672. Then we need to round that to 2 decimal places, and so that would be 10.67 kilograms. The first thing to notice is that the tree must be closer to CD than AB. So if we draw a line across the middle, it can't be in the top bit, because that would be closer to line AB. The second piece of information that is given to us is it must be at least 11 meters away from point C. So we get our compass out and measure 11 centimeters, or whatever the scale we're using in this diagram is, and we draw a quarter circle from C. And it says shade the region that it can be planted. So this is the region that represents closer to line CD than AB, but also not within 11 meters of point C. I'm just going to write the question out, so we've got a little bit bigger writing to play with here. And it doesn't actually matter which method you expand these brackets with. I'm going to use Smars and Rainbows. So we multiply the 8 by the 10x, which will make 80x, and multiply the 8 by the 4, which will make 32. Now here we've got a minus 5 on the outside, so we do minus 5 times 8x, which is minus 40x, and minus 5 times minus 4, which is actually plus 20. And a lot of students will write take away 20 there, but that is a minus 5 on the outside of the brackets there. So it's minus 5 times the minus 4 there will give you a plus 20. Then 80x take away 40x, which will give us 40x. And 32 plus 20, which would be 52. So our answer would be 40x plus 52. So we're going to start off with x equals 0, and we're going to write out this equation, but with 0 every time it says x. So it's going to be y equals 0 squared minus 0 plus 10. Well, 0 squared is just 0, so 0 take away 0 is just 0, plus 10 is just going to be 10. So the answer there would be 10. Could do the same for 1. So it would be 1 squared minus 1 plus 10. Well, 1 squared is 1, 1 take away 1 is 0, plus 10 is 10, so that will also be 10. 2 squared minus 2 plus 10. 2 squared is 4, 4 take away 2 is 2, plus 10 will be 12. Now we're going to do the negative, so we're going to look at minus 1. So it's y equals minus 1 squared, and it's going to be minus 1 plus 10. So a little bit more complicated here. Minus 1 squared is just 1. Now here you have two negatives together. When you have two negatives together, it makes a plus. So we've got 1 plus 1 plus 10, which is going to be 12. And then we'll do the minus 2. So it'd be minus 2 squared minus 2 plus 10. So minus 2 squared is 4. The two minuses here make a plus. So it'd be plus 2. Should be 6, plus 10 will be 16. So we're going to plot these on our graph. And so we've got minus 2 is at 16, so that'll be there. Minus 1 is at 12, should be here. 0 is at 10, 1 is at 10, and 2 is at 12. Okay, when you join this up, things to be aware of is you need to make sure that you have a round U at the bottom and not a flat bottom. Okay, so you want to avoid a flat bottom. You also want to make sure that you avoid feathering like that. You want just one nice smooth line. And my recommendation is always to turn the page on its side. I don't have that luxury, so I'm going to try my best with this. But you need to make sure it goes through all the points. And here's the part here where it goes beneath those 2 points. So make sure it goes beneath those 2 points. On most exams, I see them, basically what they do is they draw a line across from those 2 points and say that the line needs to go beneath that, or your curve needs to go beneath that line. So they're looking out that you've gone beneath the line. The formula for an exterior angle for a regular polygon is 360 divided by the amount of sides. Now here we're given the fact that the exterior angle is 30 and we're looking for n, so we just need to rearrange the equation. We can times both sides by n. And then divide both sides by 30. And so we've got n equals 360 divided by 30. And when you do 360 divided by 30, we get the answer of 12. So it's a 12-sided shape. So I'm going to write this question out a bit bigger, just so we've got a bit more room. And we're asked to solve. So what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to start by putting our solving lines in. And we're going to try and figure out what we do to get x on its own. So we're going to start by subtracting 9 to both sides. And so that will leave us with the 10x squared on the left hand side and then 250 on the right. Then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we've got x squared equals 25. And then we're going to square root both sides. Now, this does give us 5, but it also gives us -5 because -5 times -5 is also 25. So our two solutions are 5 and -5. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. Whenever we do these kind of questions, it's always best to convert the pattern into numbers. So we're just going to count the dots. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 in the first one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So our sequence is going 9, 13, 17. And we're going to see what it's going up in. So we're adding 4 each time. And that means our sequence will involve 4n. And then what we do is we go backwards 1 to find the 0th term. So we're going to take away 1. So 9 take away 1 is 5. So the 0th term is 5. And the 0th term just tells us what to add on to the 4n. So 4n plus 5 will be our answer. To prove triangle congruence, you're going to have one of four answers. You're either going to have RHS, SSS, angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle, and the last one, side, angle, side. So those are our options. So we've got to figure out what we have in this question. Well, we have a right angle, so an angle or right angle. We've got a side, which is actually the hypotenuse, because we know the hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. And then we just have another side. Now, it's not going to be SSS because we don't have three sides. We do have a side and an angle and a side, but the two sides are not next to the angle, so it's not going to be that one. And we don't have two angles, so it's not going to be this one. So the last one is RHS, which is right angle, which we have, hypotenuse, which we have, and side. So I'm going to write out the equation again, just to give us a bit more space. And the rule we have here is if we have an x on both sides, which we do in here, we pick the smallest one to get rid of. So we've got a 12x and a 7x. And so the smaller number, or the smaller x, would be the 7x. So we're going to get rid of that first. So we've got our lines in, and we're going to take away 7x both sides. And so 12x take away 7x is 5x. And the 7x is gone, so it's just equals to 46. Then we've got the minus 4 to get rid of, so we're going to add 4 both sides. And then we've got this times 5 here, so we're going to divide 5 both sides. So we've got x equals 50 divided by 5, which is 10. We can write the equations of all linear graphs as y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. The easiest thing to find is the y-intercept, because it's just where the line crosses the y-axis, so that's going to be minus 2. We're going to use that point, so the point we've just drawn on, and we're going to have to find another point to find the gradient. Now, I don't really like this point because I don't really know where that is, and we've got to find a coordinate we know the coordinates for. So looking at this, this is a nice coordinate here. And what I'm going to do is just draw a right angle triangle between the 2 points. Try and get it as nice as I can. And we're going to work out how far up and how far right we went. Well, we went 3 right and 4 up. Now, to find the gradient, what we want to do is we find out how much y has changed, so change in y, so that's how far up it's gone, which is 4, and put that over how far right it's gone, so the change in x, which is going to be 3. So our equation is going to be y equals 4 over 3 x minus 2. So in this question we are told that the centre of enlargement is at 6, 4. So let's just put across there. And what I'm going to do is just draw ray lines from the centre of enlargement, and we're just going to go through each of the corners of our shape A. And we're going to just check whether it goes through the corner of shape B, which it does on this one. Let's just keep going. Yeah, it does on this one. But it does not on this one. So it says find the coordinate of the vertex of shape B that is not correct. So the coordinate is this one here. And so that would be minus 4, 1. So the symbol here basically means and. And the way I remember it is if you draw that symbol and just put a line through it, you can make the word and. So we're looking at the probability of getting something that is in A and C. So the only ones that are in A and C are this 8 and this 9 here. So we're going to just add the 8 and the 9 together, which give us 17. Now we need to then work out how many numbers there are in total, so that's all of them. So 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 plus 3 plus 11 plus 6. So we need the total, which is 54. And then we get the 17, and we put that over the amount in total, so over 54. So we're given a right angled triangle here, and we're asked to find length AC, which is this length here, and we're given two other lengths, so we're going to be using Pythagoras. Pythagoras involves us labelling the sides A, B and C, with C being the one opposite the right angle. And we know Pythagoras is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Both A and B here are 4.9, so it'd be 4.9 squared plus 4.9 squared equals C squared. So we're going to add the 4.9 squareds together, and that will give us 48.020 blah blah blah. And here we're going to do a bit of solving. So we're going to square root both sides to find out what C is. So square root of 48.020 blah 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 is 6.929 blah blah blah. Rounded to two decimal places, this will be 6.93. So we're going to first of all convert the 11 litres into millilitres. So we're going to do 11 times 1,000, which will be 11,000. Okay, so we're going to just draw a line, like a number line, and we're going to have the 11,000 in the middle. Now, what would be the next one down if we're looking at to the nearest 10 mil? So we're going to add a 10 mil on, which will be 11,010, and we're going to take the 10 mil away. So 11,000 take away 10 mil will be 10, 990. Now when we're looking at limits, with the upper and lower part of it, we are looking at halfway points. So halfway here and halfway here. So this halfway point will be 10,995, and the next one will be 11,005, and that's the halfway points. And so that is going to be our upper and lower bound. And we just need to say that V can be anything above the 10,995 and including that, and it can be anything below 11,005, but it can't include that, because if it did, if it was 11,005, it would have rounded up to 11,010. So the first thing we need to do is we need to solve the inequality. So I'm just going to write out again, just so we've got a bit more space. And let's put our tram lines in. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of that -2. So we're going to add 2 to all three sides. So that'd be 29, 6x, and then 57. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to divide by 6 all three sides, so we get x on its own. That's what solve means, just get x on its own. So that leaves us with a horrible number, 4.833 blah blah blah. X in the middle, and then we've got, I think, 9.5. Okay, now we're asked to find the integer values. Integers are just whole numbers. So we're thinking about what are the numbers between 4.833 blah 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 and 9.5. Well, it can equal 4.833, but actually it can't, because we're looking for integer values, which are whole numbers. So the first whole number is 5, then 6, 7, 8, and then 9, because it's less than 9.5, not less than 9, but it can't be 10 because 10 is more than 9.5. So we're going to start off with 100%. And it says that the card depreciates. That means goes down by, so it goes down by 1.7% every year. So we do 100 take away 1.7, which is 98.3, and that's percent. And we want that as a decimal, or as a multiplier we call it. And so we just divide it by 100 to make it into a decimal, 0.98 8, 3. And that's our multiplier. And the beautiful thing about a multiplier is we just need the amount of years. Well, it says from 1980 to 1985. So that's going to be 5 years. So it's going to be 5 years. And so what we do is we get the original amount, which was 2,245, and times it by the multiplier 5 times. Now I can't be bothered on my calculator to times it by 0.9835 times. So what you can do is you can do it to the power of 5, which basically means the same thing. And that gives us 2060.553. And when we round that, that would be £2,060 and 55 pence. So there are 2 outcomes that it will rain once in the next 2 days, and that will be rain and not rain, and not rain and rain. So to work out the probability, it will rain on Monday and then not rain on Tuesday. What you're going to do is just multiply 6 over 20 by the 2 over 7. So 6 over 20 times 2 over 7. And that will give us 12 over 140. And to work out the probability, it will not rain on Monday and rain on the Tuesday. We're just going to multiply the 14 over 20 by the 5 over 7. And so that would be 14 over 20 times 5 over 7. And that will give us, 70 over 140. Now we're looking for the probability it will rain and not rain, or not rain and rain. The word or in probability means add, so we're going to get that 12 over 140 and add it to the 70 over 140, and that will give us 82 over 140. And then we can cancel that down to 41 over 70. I'm going to do just a quick multiplication grid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 2x plus 3 at the top, so 2x and then plus 3, and then 3x minus 11 down the side. Multiply them out, 3 times 2 is 6, so that'd be 6x squared, 3 times 3 is 9, so that'd be 9x. Minus 11 times positive 2 will be minus 22x, and then minus 11 times positive 3 will be minus 33. Get them all together, so we've got 6x squared plus 9x, because that is a positive, minus 22x minus 33, and we can see here that the plus 9x and the minus 22x are like terms, so we can add them together to make minus 13x, and that's our answer. So our answer is 6x squared minus 13x minus 33. It's sometimes easier in these questions to view these triangles as 2 separate triangles rather than one triangle. So we're kind of just going to split this triangle off and just move it to the side so we can see what's going on. I'm going to do the same with the smaller triangle and kind of move that to the side. So we can see we've got 2 triangles here. We've got a big triangle and small triangle. And we can label the sides of them as 18. Now this long length would be 20 plus x, 20 centimeters plus x. Then we've got 6 here and we've got x here. Now the 2 triangles are similar because the sides here we assume are, we know they are parallel because they are right angles. And they share an angle here, which we can just label as A, and so they are definitely similar, which means that one is an enlargement of the other. So we need the scale factor first. Now if you look at the 6 and the 18, they are what we call corresponding sides. So we need to work out the scale factor by finding out what I multiply the 6 by to get to the 18. Well, that's obviously going to be 3. So we now know that we can times the x by 3 to get to the 20 plus x. So we can write that down. 3x, I'm timesing the x by 3, and that will give me 20 plus x. And so I can solve this now. Subtract x both sides. Always subtract the smaller amount, so 2x equals 20, and then divide both sides by 2. And so we've got x equals 10. So we know that x equals 10, it says find the length x, and so that will be 10. First thing I'm going to do is add these column vectors. So we're going to add the tops first, and then we're going to add the bottoms. So it's plus minus 14. And so at the top it would be minus 4, and 11 take away 14 is minus 3. Then I'm going to pick a point on my shape, and the the top one tells us how far right we're going. So we know we're going 4 to the left because it's obviously a negative. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. The bottom one tells us how far up we're going. Well, it's going to be down because it's a minus 3. So 1, 2, 3. And we can do that for each of the other points. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And when we've done that, we can join them all up with straight lines. And label the new shape B. So we can't work out length CE directly, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by finding length BC. And I'm going to do that using trigonometry. So we've got the 90 degrees there. So it will be, well, we'll start by labeling it. So BC is the hypotenuse, the opposite here and adjacent here. We're not using the adjacent. So we're going to just do our SOHCAHTOA, and we've crossed out the A, so we cross out these two. So it's going to be sine. So we know that sine 79 equals the opposite, which is 29 over the BC. So I'm going to put my solving lines in. And we need to times both sides by BC first of all. So we end up with BC sine 79 equals 29. And we're just going to divide both sides by sine 79. Just a bit of rearranging. So BC will be 29 over sine 79. And when you do that in the calculator, you get 29.542, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so next thing we need to figure out is angle BCE. So where are we? This angle here. And to work that out, we're just going to take 79 away from 90. So angle BCE is 90 take away 79, and that's going to be 11. So we know this is 11 degrees here, and we have enough information now to work out CE because we've got this triangle here, and we've got this length here, the BC, and we've got this angle here. So we've got enough information now. So we're going to look for length CE. We're going to first of all label the sides. So we've got the opposite here, the hypotenuse opposite the right angle here, and the adjacent here. So this hypotenuse is now an adjacent. We're not using the opposite at all, but we are looking for the hypotenuse. So let's do our little triangles now, find out which one we're using. So we're not using O, so we get rid of sine and tan, and it's going to be a cos. So it's going to be cos 11 equals the adjacent, which is the BC value we've just worked out, over the hypotenuse, which is CE. Now hopefully you've realised from when we did it with the sine thing here that actually we can just swap these two things over. So we can have it as CE equals 29.542 blah 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 over cos 11. Okay, then we put that into our calculator and we get the answer of 30.095 blah blah blah, and it wants it to one decimal place, so that will be 30.1. So we're asked to go from B to D. So we're starting at B and going to D. Now we've got a problem here. With B, there are no roads out that we know the name of. We don't know the name of this, we don't know the name of that. Well, actually we do. Two vectors of the same direction and the same length are the same. So this length here is also going to be P, or the vector is also going to be P. So to get from B to D, we're going to go down this road and then down this road. So the first road was P, second road we're going backwards down Q, so it would be minus Q. Now for those of you wondering, if we go down this road and this road, it will give us the same vector, because this road here is Q that way, so minus Q plus P is exactly the same. There are two shapes we need to find the volume of. There's this cylinder here and this hemisphere here. So we might as well start with this cylinder. And the formula for the volume is pi times r squared times height. So it's the radius is 9, so 9 squared times the height, which is 30. And when we work that out, we get 7,634.070, blah, blah, blah. Next is the hemisphere. To find the volume of the hemisphere, well, the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed, but because it's a hemisphere, we just times that by a half. So it's half times 4/3 times pi times r, which is the radius, which is 9 cubed, and that gives us 1,526.814 blah blah blah. And so the total volume is 7,634.070 blah 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 plus the 1,526.814 blah blah blah, which equals 9,160.884 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to two decimal places, so when we round that we get 9,160.88. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our OnMaths site. OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.